Welcome back to Slice of Life. This is episode 45. I've yet to scare Billy away full time. He's back again today on June the 10th. Hopefully the air conditioner is on wherever you are inside of quarantine today. Unfortunately, in my little mini New York City apartment, all we have is the vent over the oven. But don't worry about me. We've got some fun stuff for you today. Billy, let's kick it off with your favorite social slice.
Okay, so for the last 3 months, we've all been sort of isolated from the outside world, some more than others, I guess. Luckily, I've been able to sort of ride out the storm in my house, and we've relied on Amazon and Peapod and DoorDash to sort of be our connection to the outside world. And I think that's similar to what a lot of people are going through. So out here on Long Island, one neighborhood got together to thank one of the essential workers who has been their connection to the outside world. Take a look. So that was Gregory Watkins Sr., who has been working for UPS for 13 years and been delivering to that neighborhood for just as long. The neighbors got together and wanted to thank him for his constant service and for going above and beyond. He apparently, throughout this whole quarantine, has been taking extra time and talking with people who are by themselves to give them some sort of connection to the outside world, making sure that medication is getting delivered and put in the right hands immediately so that it's not left outside, taking in people's trash cans, just good neighborly things. So the neighborhood got together and combined their efforts and gave Gregory a special thank you. They gave him some drawings and cards from kids in the neighborhood, a giant tropical plant for him to put in his home, and everybody's favorite, some good old hard-earned American cash. So a great job by Gregory, and something that I absolutely connected to as well. We've sort of been relying on others to be our connection to the outside world and bring us everything we need, from diapers for the kids to food to everything. So we wouldn't be able to get by without the frontline workers that aren't necessarily on the top of mind for most people, but these delivery guys have been doing a great job helping us all be able to live our lives while stuck in quarantine as well.
Yeah, and I think about, you're doing a lot of moving around, but it's a bit of a lonely job. The community always loves people like this. I know that when I was growing up, the mail carrier always used to carry around dog treats because there were a bunch of dogs on our block, and he would kind of be friendly with all of them. And I know my mom works from home too, and her business is a lot of package delivery, and so she's got a great relationship with the UPS driver on Long Island as well, and in our neighborhood. So I love this stuff because they're working hard. They're lifting packages for all of us. I mean, think about how crazy things have been the last few months with limiting the amount of toilet paper you could buy because people all over the world are buying toilet paper. So yeah, definitely. For my favorite social slice, Mets fans can rally around this one. Josh Lewin continues to worry me, but also entertain me at the same time. Former Mets radio broadcaster, the guy that was the number 2 with Howie Rose, has been basically unbelievable on Twitter since the quarantine started. He was, at least from my Twitter feed, he was the original broadcast whatever you see trend that started to pick up. He was broadcasting his burrito, the countdown before his burrito was done in the microwave kind of thing. And now he's just watch.
I'll tear up this I gotta cut loose, pull loose, kick off your Sunday shoes. Louise, hold me up my knee. Bow wow, Jack, get back. Come on before we crack. Loose, you're loose. Everybody come for loose. Bow.
So, like I said, Josh Lewin continues to worry, but also entertain me. I kind of feel his pain a little bit because we as broadcasters, it's like the catch-22 when you're in the middle of a long season. In his case, 162 games. You're like, man, if I just had a summer, if I just had a couple of days at home, it'd be nice to relax and kind of be normal. And then you go to the complete opposite extreme where you're not broadcasting a thing and you don't know where to put your hands. Your brain goes a bit haywire. You're just looking for some normalcy. And Josh Lewin, while many will think that you've gone a little crazy, I just know that you're game hungry, my friend, and we'll be back there soon. So don't completely lose it on us yet.
Yeah, I've always been a big Josh Lewin guy. He's been since he was with the Mets. He's a very funny guy. He's a big Seinfeld guy, so I obviously have that connection with him as well. And in a little-known Billy Harner story, Josh Lewin wrote a book called Getting in the Game back in, I want to say like 2004, 2005. It was about his experience at the baseball winter meetings and sort of following people around who were looking for jobs and some other different stuff. And that was I read that when I was in college, and it sort of was my insight into what life in professional sports might be like. So that was one of the things I read that sort of threw me into getting into the baseball world. So I have a lot to thank for Josh Lewin as well. So good job, Josh, writing that book, 15 years ago too.
Time for Chicken Parm Heroes. I'll start first. The South Koreans sent 10,000 masks to the Navajo tribe in the Southwest United States because the tribe had been hit so hard during COVID. And if you're saying, what is the connection here? Don't worry, I had no idea either, but it is amazing. The Koreans did this because during the Korean War, there were about 800 Navajo code talkers that were used in the military to kind of funnel things in and out and get the communication going behind the scenes. There are about 130 of these Navajo code talkers that are still alive from, again, the 1950 Korean War. I did some research on this because I love World War II. I love the history of it. Apparently, the U.S. military started using members of the Navajo tribe because their language was so difficult to understand, and it was literally all verbal, no alphabet, not written down, nothing. So if you didn't know it, you weren't going to figure it out. And I had no idea what the connection was at all between the Navajo, what is going on. But even years later, apparently the relationship between South Korea and the Navajo tribe has been just continuous. They've given each other medals. They have a great relationship. And a little known fact about World War II and the Korean War, and I basically went down the rabbit hole of finding out about the Navajo language. Crazy to me.
Yeah, so for my Chicken Parm Hero, we're also going to stay with the Navajo Nation, just a little bit closer to home. As 8th grade students at the Waldorf School in Santa Fe, New Mexico, started fundraising for their end-of-year trip for graduating 8th graders, which is a normal thing for schools sort of everywhere. So they were doing, bake sales and pizza sales and different things like that. And the COVID-19 obviously put a sort of halt on that. But they had raised about $2,800 when school was canceled. But the money didn't go to waste. The group of 8th graders got together and decided to use their money to purchase supplies for the Navajo Nation, which recently, I guess, I hadn't heard this because I guess I've stopped watching the news personally. I guess I shouldn't be saying that out loud, but I have. Because the Navajo Nation has surpassed New York and New Jersey with the highest per capita infection rate in the United States. So I guess it's not uncommon there for multi-generational homes where you have grandparents and great-grandparents living with their grandkids and great-grandkids. So it's very easy to sort of transmit the disease that way, I suppose. So that has led to a rapid spread of the virus amongst this group. So one of the parents of the 8th grade students in Santa Fe, her name is Jess Falkenhagen. She reached out to the Navajo Nation to see what they needed. And the response that she got was non-perishable food items and in particular baby items. So they got diapers, they got formula, they got wipes, they got all that stuff. They also went and bought 50 cans of soup, 75 pounds of potatoes, pasta, beans, rice, pet food, and 60 gallons of water. And one of the students' siblings in the 8th grade class, the sister even made face masks to hand out to the Navajo Nation members as well. So one of the families, one of the moms got into a car with her daughter and they drove to Arizona to deliver all these items. So I just thought this was a really cool story for 8th graders who are typically at that age. You're not necessarily thinking about others. And they did a great job to absolutely pay it forward and help out people that were in need. So a great job by them. And I'm sure the parents and the teachers and the principal and everybody in that school are very proud of their efforts.
And who'd have thunk that the stars would align today on today's Chicken Parm Hero, that the Navajo Nation would completely sweep the Chicken Parm Hero story today. Awesome. You learn a lot of things on this show. Even the two of us have learned that we would talk about things we never even thought existed. Sports. I guess I'll kick this one over to you, Bill.
So we finally have an answer as to what the first sport back on U.S. soil will be. And it's Major League Soccer. So close. So close. Yep, America's favorite pastime, soccer, will return to the pitch on July 8th with a 56-game tournament with all 26 MLS clubs that will run through August 11th with the group stage and knockout stage, with the winner earning a spot in the 2021 CONCACAF Champions League. So the entire tournament will be played in Orlando, which is quickly becoming the sports center of the universe, with the NBA set to take up their postseason and regular season there as well in July. So the soccer tournament will be played 3 games a day at 9 a.m. and then 8 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. to avoid the Florida heat that would be typical playing in July and August. And when the tournament is over, MLS is hoping to resume its regular season in home markets starting in mid-August. So there are sports coming back here, and they will be here sooner than you think. While it might not be the sport that we're hoping for, there are sports coming back.
I think about like instructs and extended spring training. Baseball-wise, they say Florida Heat, let's go right into it. They usually play games like 11 or 12 right in the middle of that Florida Heat. So 9 a.m., 8 p.m., and 10:30. Bookends soccer coming our way later this summer. Hopefully, my sports story will be baseball coming back this summer, this 2020 summer, this year. Everybody, please, we're all waiting. But tonight, MLB Draft Night 1, 7 o'clock on ESPN. The MLB Draft will come to TV round 1 tonight. Tomorrow is rounds 2 through just 5 on ESPN 2. Obviously, MLB has trimmed the draft from 40 rounds down to 5. And every year of the Brooklyn Cyclones' existence, we have watched and waited with open arms to see who would be drafted, because that's pretty much your team for the 2020 year. So many questions still left to be answered. But they trimmed it down to 5 rounds this year because there's no college baseball. There's no high school baseball. A lot of teams told their scouting department, take 5. We'll call you when we need you. So I'm very interested to see what this turns into, how impactful it is, because will there be a minor league season this year, or will the guys that are drafted this year, I feel like there's going to be, 3 people that are drafted this year. Will they just kind of pack it in and we'll see you next year, or what the deal is? So a night that's usually we are all eyes on, Bill, a little bit different.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts about our job is the draft. And you literally know about these guys before anybody else does, because we're sitting there listening to the draft. And when a guy gets picked, we're immediately calling SIDs and looking stuff up on the internet to find out more about the guy, to put into our media guide and our game program to get things ready for opening day. So this year will be a little bit different, to just sort of sit back and watch. The baseball draft has always been sort of odd in that, the hockey draft, the guy gets picked and he's on the Rangers the next year. Football, the guy gets picked and he's a starting quarterback in a couple months. Basketball, the same deal. You have a guy like Zion who's going from college to all of a sudden he's a household name and first pick and saving a franchise. And now the baseball draft is you pick a guy out of high school and maybe in 4 or 5 years you see him in the big league. So it's a very different thing altogether. And I think this is just going to make it even more weird, because there's been no college World Series. There's been no college baseball. So people aren't seeing games on SEC Network or ESPN or whatever. So it's going to be different. It's going to be a little weird. And, as a front office member of a major league team, if you're doing these things, it's got to be a little disconcerting, because you're not getting all the information that you would typically have on these guys. they haven't played a game since March. And when they did play, you only probably saw them for a week if you were watching one guy the entire time. So, starting pitchers, there's guys who may go in the first round who have thrown 3 games this year, 2 or 3 games. So it's a very interesting thing. More of a crapshoot than ever tonight, I think, with when these guys are going to be taken and what they are going to be come their big league time. So good luck to everybody tonight. A lot of guys' dreams come true. They get selected. It's going to be a little different than normally. They'll be in their houses instead of in the studio in Secaucus or whatever. But good luck to everybody. The Mets have the 19th pick, I think, tonight, and then they have a comp pick tomorrow for Zach Wheeler signing with the Phillies, and then they have the rest of their picks for rounds 2 through 5. So who knows? It's they pick a guy you've never heard of him. You hope that in a few years, you're wearing his jersey at Citi Field. So see what happens.
Yeah, for these the scouting departments, like you said, the film is not there. It's like going back to watch like a 90s movie. You're like, I think this movie was really good. And then you watch it, you're like, oh boy. So hopefully, you have enough information, because there's a lot of money that will be sprayed around tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah,
so like you said, yeah.
Like as a comparison, like with Tua Tagovailoa with Alabama, when he got hurt, people didn't give a full report on what he was going to be, and nobody got to work him out and the NFL combines and stuff like that because everybody was shut down. So this is that, but for everybody. Nobody got hands-on contact with these guys or got to have them work out or got to see them in person or, do a ton of background on them. So it's that for every single player that's getting drafted tonight. So good luck. Yeah,
these are, as people would say on Twitter, I really miss precedented times, because these are very unprecedented times. Good stuff today, Bill. Our thanks again to the Navajo Nation for crushing it during our Chicken Farm Heroes. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Have a good night, everybody.